recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hello and welcome to Arn. This is Paul Bromwell, and today I'm joined by the founder of the Four Horsemen, the creator of the Spinebuster, the Hall of Famer, the only man walking God's green earth that Conrad won't call an asshole for wearing white sunglasses. He's the enforcer. He's double A. He's Arn Anderson. Arn, how are you this week?
Is there a problem with those white sunglasses?
On other shows, he's had some things to say about guys who wear white sunglasses. But as we go through this show, my friend, you're going to see a clip where you're sporting those white sunglasses. So I think he'd walk it back if he knew Double A himself wore those white sunglasses.
Well, I guess there might be something me and Conrad going to have to talk about.
I think so. Man, I am fired up, though, about this show. So much going on. We had a blast last week talking through March, specifically the build to the first ever Clash of the Champions. This week, it's all about April 1988, and we're going to take an in-depth look into the month. And this time, our destination is the creation of arguably the best version of the Four Horsemen. Arn, you ready to dive in, my friend?
Yes, sir. This is one that's had a lot of conjecture over the years, so let's go back and relive it, and maybe we'll change our mind about that. We'll see.
That sounds good to me, brother. All right, let's do this. The month of April begins at the Norfolk Scope. It's a regular stop on the loop. And in the follow-up to the Clash, you and Tully defeated Luger and Windham by DQ. The Horsemen weren't finished there, though. The Nature Boy, he defeated Sting in a steel cage match when you threw Nature Boy a chair that he would use on Sting. After the match, the Horsemen put a signature beatdown on Sting until Dusty, Dr. Death, Luger, and Windham saved the Stinger. The main event show that was recorded in March aired on April 3rd and featured a promo with all the Horsemen, an interview that saw both you and the Nature Boy putting the baby faces over. And then later on in the show, Arn, the Horsemen challenged Luger, Windham, and Sting. We have all the closing moments of this match, Arn. We're going to check it out. Here we go.
Of course, this man in the ring, he is the master, the consummate professional wrestler, as a heavyweight champion of the world. And Ric Flair, with a standing vertical suplex, can he nail the package with this one?
That was as well applied as you'll find, but Luger's up! Lex Luger standing up! And he ducked the champion! That was as much shot for the champion as anything else when he was hit. But he has made the tag to Tully Blanchard. The tag has been made, and here's Barry Windham! Here's Arn Anderson! Flair! The Brushman is in! And all the Horsemen go down! Flair down!
Big Barry Windham from Sweetwater is cleaning house on the Four Horsemen, and a great power slam.
Well, quickly, Blanchard went out of that one. Windham now to the other side. Over the ropes he goes. The match will continue, says Tommy Young. The match will continue. Momentum getting over the top.
Anderson and Luger are fighting on the outside, but it's Tully Blanchard trying to bring Barry Windham back in. The Windham's behind him.
Has he rolled up? Barry Windham has him. Two. And Flair saved the day. Ric Flair with a save. JJ has thrown something into the ring. A foreign object is in the hands of Blanchard. Look at him.
Tully Blanchard has something in his right hand. He got a foreign object in his right hand. We saw him.
That's it. The Four Horsemen.
A travesty of justice here. A foreign object thrown into the ring by J.J. Dillon. It was used very effectively by Tully Blanchard, and the Horsemen have stolen this one.
There are your winners. The Four Horsemen. We're going to recap how it happened. An NWA main event. Right after this.
Arn, that crowd was red hot. Not just the closing, the entire match.
In those arenas, did you see the sweat everybody had? going, everybody. Those buildings were hot, and it just made the audience even hotter. You know, it was just like being in a boiler room. And, yeah, the crowd was just insane.
They're screaming the entire match. You had JJ with the assist. He tosses in the gimmick there to make sure the Horsemen get the victory. But this is everything you guys needed to follow up that Clash of Champions. The heat is on in more ways than one. You talk about your bodies glistening, but you continue that heat. The Horsemen pick up the victory with the foreign object, and it's a lot of fun, man. It's a crazy time of the business.
Allegedly. A foreign object.
So we saw
allegedly.
Arn, later that day, wrestling from the Omni, you defeated the Italian Stallion in an underneath match. Tully lost his singles match to Barry Windham, and Flair defeated Sting. While we're here, any fun memories of working with, or just in general, of the Italian Stallion?
Well, the word on the street, and I'm not going to out anybody because that would probably even right today would be the wrong thing to do. But the Italian Stallion, they say, had some Italian ties. It wasn't about garlic, wasn't about pasta, it was the other type ties. If you watch The Sopranos, you get my drift.
We get it.
And the word on the street was he was a leg breaker. Now, I know that he was a big, strong young man, had an amateur background, and was pretty damn tough kid from what I've heard. He just didn't have quite enough experience in this go-around, but he was no slouch. Make no mistake.
You're not the first person who's shared some of that about him. I've heard Tony Schiavone, your buddy, mention a few things about that as well. So you're definitely not off on your analysis of Mr. Stallion. So there we go. April 6th, Jim Crockett Promotions, I love saying that phrase, great wrestling, recorded an episode of World Championship Wrestling from the TBS studios in Atlanta that aired on April 9th. Arn, this is the first TV taping coming after the Clash of the Champions, and the full court press to the Crockett Cup is on. This is also the first show we saw Dusty as the Midnight Rider. You remember that one, right? Dusty in the old mask,
yes,
Midnight Rider
sir.
deal. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is following his 120-day storyline suspension after the attack on Magnum TA back in March. Last episode, we left the reason for the suspension open-ended, but the follow-up research indicates this decision was strictly a creative one. So it was all about debuting him as Midnight Rider. Isn't that fun?
Well, it's, you could get away with stuff like that back in the day. It was tongue-in-cheek. Everybody in the building knew who it was.
Yes.
Obviously, that's what made it so entertaining.
It was entertaining, man. I remember that as a kid. Like Midnight Rider, we all know that's Dusty Rhodes, but it was still something different. And different was good in certain things, and we enjoyed it. On the show, you and Tully defeated Kendall Windham and Mike Jackson in just under 2 minutes. After the match, you and Tully and JJ are interviewed by the voice of wrestling and fellow AFS colleague Jim Ross. We have the match, Arn, and we have the interview. Let's take a look.
Excellence in professional wrestling, the Four Horsemen. It's going to happen. First of all, ladies, it's Friday night, April the 22nd.
Let's not be talking about dates. Let's talk about the issue at hand. Just about the time that I think justice has finally prevailed. I've got a little confidence back in our judicial system. I have to look at this blatant miscarriage of justice, because that's exactly what it is. How can you stand out here with a straight face and look at the same monitor that I'm looking at, seeing this person called the Midnight Rider, knowing wholeheartedly that it's none other than the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who is supposed to be under suspension for 120 days.
How do you know that?
How do I know it? I'm not blind, and I spent a fortune on these glasses. That's how I know it. I know that man inside and out. And you may be an idiot, though I've always had a lot of respect for you, but I can't help but believe
that any one member of the board of directors, if they sat and looked at that tape, would have to choke on their coffee because it's so obvious who it is. So if I got to get back to the boardroom, if I've got to get some copies of this videotape and send them to every member and say, take a good look at it, Dusty Rhodes went over the line. He cracked. He took a baseball bat and hit an official of the NWA. That's the bottom line. Suspended for 120 days, and just about the time we're willing and ready to celebrate this moment before the champagne has even had time to get cold, I have to look at a monitor and see this Midnight Rider. Well, something is going to be done about it.
You got something to say about this? You gentlemen
I got something to say. It's more case of Molly Collin Rhodes, and he makes too much money to be Molly Collin.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Horsemen are quite upset of the appearance of the Midnight Rider, and you'll see Sting right after we come back.
Okay, so a few things here. First of all, JJ says, because I'm blind and spent a fortune on these glasses. This is like we're playing the hits of JJ Dillon recently, man. He is just so good. I know we've said it before, but he's fantastic here.
You got to relive it and get a dose of it like we're doing now to really realize just how good he is. What an intelligent, articulate guy, big time.
He really is. And Arn, the other thing I noticed here, you changed up your look just a little bit. Is it because we're approaching the summertime? I'm seeing a little bit of blonde in Arn Anderson. I don't know if you found the peroxide or the sun in, but you're going to see that as we go here. Well, you're looking a lot blonder, my friend.
You know, in those days, squirt a lemon on your head, get out on the deck for an hour.
There you go.
You could be blind. I don't know.
Well, you had the lemons working then, my friend, because we're going to see this as the clips go. You're looking blonder than ever. The sun's shining. The tan is arriving, and you looking like it's ready for summertime. But we'll move on. It's April 8th. We're at the Nassau Coliseum, this time with only 4,500 in attendance for the early show, down from the initial 10,000 plus in the Jim Crockett Promotions debut. You're second from the top. You and Tully lose to Windham and Luger by DQ. The main event, Road Warriors versus the Powers of Pain. Wow, that's some big-time beef and muscle in the ring there. The other half of the Jim Crockett Promotions crew ran the Richmond Coliseum, and the main event, Flair and Sting. Man, talk about two top-notch cards there. Arn, in the past, you've said a lot of times, with lower houses, people just didn't want to see it. This is in the heart of WWF country as well. A 50% decline seems a little bit steep, and the Road Warriors and Powers of Pain are perfect for an audience used to seeing big men in those territories. What are your thoughts on this?
And what town are we talking?
Nassau Coliseum, so we're in the Northeast.
Yeah, that was Vince's stronghold, that New York area. You know, the first time they're going to turn out because of curiosity, and then they may go back and be loyal to their home team. I know this. Let me just make a side note about the Powers of Pain and the Road Warriors. They took this angle with those guys. The four of them took it very, very serious. And I walked in the gym one day, and this will appeal to people that work out all the time, power lifters, Olympic lifters. They will all get what I'm about to say. So I go in, and it just so happens Barbarian. It's in Charlotte. It's a King's Gym, I believe it was, over on South Boulevard where a lot of the guys trained. I happen to walk in, and there's Barbarian and the Warlord. And, buddy, they're on the incline, and there was 535 on the incline. Now, I'm not talking about the Smith machine. I'm talking about just an incline bench. Both of them, each one, I sat there and watched them do 535 for 5 reps on incline.
My goodness.
Warlord, Barbarian. That's serious weight, Paul. Serious weight. So they took this, weightlifting angle and their chance to throw hands with the Road Warriors. They took it very, very serious.
My goodness. They were all larger than life, man. Just massive, huge, And you thought if anybody could take on the Road Warriors, it's those guys. The Powers of Pain. Whoever matched up Warlord and Barbarian were genius. The Powers of Pain, to me, as a kid, again, in that time frame, they were definite challengers in my mind to the Road Warriors. They looked like them. They were built as big, if not, to your point, bigger. And so it was a fun matchup for sure.
And Animal was really, really strong. Hawk had those big traps,
Yes.
big neck, good physique. But he wasn't quite as strong as any of the other three, Animal or the other two. And then you add in, Barbarian, you add in the Island Boy ingredient, which makes them double tough.
Right.
Every Island Boy that I've ever met is a tough sumbitch, and he would be one of those.
Oh, I always hear the stories about Meng or Haku, whatever you want to call him. Man, he's another one.
Yes, sir. Ming may still be the world champion. Who knows? Nobody's going to challenge him. But put Barb in that class.
Wow, my goodness. Well, listen, we're talking about all this activity here on this date, April 8th. And by the way, later that evening, you're wrestling again because that's just what you guys did. You and Tully wrestled Barry and Dr. Death at the Sam Houston Coliseum. So again, the travel was only made possible by those costly private planes, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's the only way you could do it. There's no other way to do it.
Chili sleep, Arn. Back in the day when you guys were racking up miles and travel and in the ring, all the Horsemen could have benefited from chili sleep. I'm telling you, science tells us that the best way to achieve and maintain consistent, deep sleep is by lowering core body temperature. Temperature-controlled sleep repairs muscles after a hard day's work and improves cognitive function so you're always ready to start your day feeling sharp and alert. Chili Sleep makes customizable, climate-controlled sleep solutions that help you improve your entire well-being. These luxury mattress pads keep your bed at the perfect temperature for deep sleep. Whether you sleep hot or cold, these sleep systems are designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and give you the confidence and energy to power through your day. Arn, there's nothing better than a good night's rest. Is it right? Am I right?
They're just catching up to what I've been saying for years and drives my wife crazy. Here's the formula for a good night's sleep. Get it ice cold and black dark. Chili Sleep has caught up. Unless they're talking about passing out with, chili 3 ways on your chest or something. Unless we're going some other way. But I think we're all talking about just a nice, cool,
That's right.
comforting atmosphere.
You're exactly right, buddy. I'm a hot sleeper myself. My wife tells me that I'm like sleeping next to a toaster oven, but not anymore. Not with chili. Once my spine hits the bed with that all-important Chili Sleep mattress pad, buddy, it's just like I took a double drop kick from the Rock and Roll Express. I'm not kicking out for a long time. So head over to chilisleep.com/Arn to learn more and save 30% off the purchase of any new Cube or older sleep system. This offer is available exclusively for Arn listeners and only for a limited time. That's Chili, CHILI, sleep.com/Arn to take advantage of our exclusive discount and wake up refreshed every day. Arn, it's April 9th, and 4,000 fans at the Philadelphia Civic Center for a matinee show were treated to a main event tag team title match where you and Tully fell short to recapture the tag titles when Windham pins you. And then 4 days later, on April 13th, Jim Crockett records an episode of World Championship Wrestling that airs on April 16th. You and Tully make quick work of 2 enhancement talents. Last names are Bowman and Paradise. I didn't make that up. Following the match, you, Tully, and JJ, what a dynamic trio, join David Crockett at the desk. Here we go.
Number 1 seed in the World Cup. A chance for $1 million. I know you're excited. And I also know you're excited about your chance to unmask the Midnight Rider in a bull rope match.
Well, first let me say the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, the World Heavyweight Champion, is not here tonight, making one of his numerous personal appearances, but of course he's always with us in spirit. And I'm reminded of the words of the Nature Boy when he said, the 4 horsemen are professional wrestling, and let's face it, we are the Crockett Cup. And it's no more obvious than when you look ahead to next week Next Saturday night, the night of the finals, Ric Flair will defend the world title against Nikita Koloff. He's got a lot of pressure. He's defended that title against all comers. Next week is going to be no exception. Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson have the pressure of going after the Crockett Cup and $1 million. So right away you say, okay, James J. Dillon, Jimmy Crockett got real cute with you, put your name on an open contract that you gave him in good faith, and now you got to face this Midnight Rider in his specialty, this Texas Bull Rope match, and boy, you're going to get busted up real bad. Where are you going to get your help from? Well, let me remind you of something. As we've already seen by the words of Dick Murdoch, Kevin Sullivan, Jim Cornette, there's a lot of people in the professional wrestling world, and I don't care if their motive is jealousy or greed or revenge or whatever it is, there's a lot of people that want to see the wrestling world rid of the likes of Dusty Rhodes. And I know the Midnight Rider's Dusty Rhodes. Let's say that right out front. Now, I have no delusions of grandeur. I don't know in the back of my mind next Saturday in Greensboro if I can defeat Dusty Rhodes in a bull rope match. I really seriously doubt that I can. But you see, I don't have to get what I want. All I need to do is just get one good lick in there with that cowbell, just stun him for a minute, just long enough to pull that mask off and expose to the whole world that he is in fact Dusty Rhodes, and then he's suspended not for 120 days, but by Jim Crockett's own words, 1 year everywhere in the world, and even 3 times world champion, out of the limelight for 1 year. Dusty Rhodes, you can kiss your career goodbye. Let me remind you, pal, the 4 Horsemen got a lot of friends, and the Horsemen will be there. JJ, you said it all, because, you know, they talk about the baddest of the bad and the evilest of the evil and the backstabbingest bunch of guys there are, and that's what this is. That's why we're on top of the heat. And, you know, you talk about that man up there, he's going to be bad. You should have stayed on vacation, because, big man, this ain't going to get it done. You're going down just like Sting did. And you know what? When you and I get in the ring, you just got a taste of what peaking for the moment of competition is all about. You saw the Horsemen peak in the ring.
David Crockett, the Horsemen, throughout their history have been called a lot of things. But there's one thing nobody could ever deny: we've got class. We're the first to buy a round of drinks. And the reason we are called class, we conduct ourselves like class acts. Everywhere we go, whether it be a restaurant, the mall, a nightclub, or just some little kid that's got something to say if we got the town. Now, a lot of people don't like us, but there's a lot of wrestlers in this business that are jealous of us because of one reason. You see, nobody gave us a lot of money or a big contract or a big bonus or potential. They gave it to us on our track record. First time we came to Jim Crockett Promotions, myself, Tully Blanchard, anybody else, Ric Flair, J.J. Dillon, we were untested. And by God, we had to come out and draw money, put butts in seats, and that's why we dictate what we are, which is the elite of this business. The Horsemen throwing the Crockett Cup. We're going to add $1 million to our kitty. We are the finest. We will manifest ourselves at the Cup.
All right, let's go to the ring.
Well, there we go, Arn. It's that's pretty intense promo there by all you guys. Looking good. You're ready for the Crockett Cup.
Yeah, and everybody's promo and approach is different. You know, it's interchangeable. JJ started, Tully second. I went last. That's fine. In those days, it didn't matter. The pieces were interchangeable.
Well, I'm kind of excited about this next thing. This is new for us. The next day in Greenwood, South Carolina, another TV taping. This time, you and Tully fought Dr. Death and Barry Windham to a time limit draw. And Arn, something kind of cool that we found with the help of the ad-free team. And it's an advertisement from this very show. So I want to show this to you now. Check it out, man. There it is. This is the actual advertisement for that show. It's you and Tully versus Dr. Death and Barry Windham at the Greenwood Civic Center, Thursday, April 14th from 1988. And that's the original ad from the newspaper. How cool is that?
Dr. Death looks like a friggin' Sasquatch.
He does. Not sure what was going on with that picture or the newspaper print.
I'm not asking anybody.
Oh,
you can, but
No.
Pretty frightening, isn't it?
It isn't, but that must have been the standard photos that they had for you, because we found Richard Land is our buddy that helps us, and he uncovered this. But I thought, man, this is really cool, something we don't have to hopefully filter out for our YouTube audience as well. But this is it, man. This is how they would advertise these upcoming cards as you guys would make your way around the towns. And they talk about the TV tapings at the bottom with Al Perez, Ricky Santana, the Sheep Herders. You got Nikita versus Tiger Conway, Sting, and Shaska. But there you are, Ewan Tully versus Barry Windham, man. This has all the feels right here at the Greenwood Civic Center. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, and the disclaimer at the bottom right, subject to change.
Subject to change. There you go.
Which gave you the out to put whatever you wanted to out there. But, you got some names, and you certainly know the audience at that point in time knew that even if they weren't listed, that you were probably going to be at a TV taping, so they didn't have to put every single star. And that you would go to the town, you would see these in store windows, and see them nailed to telephone poles, you name it. Old school way of promoting.
Yep, grudge tag match, and you guys are the headliners. I thought that was pretty cool there. So we move on. It's April 15th. The NWA officially strips Dusty of the U.S. title because of the suspension for 120 days. So we've already seen the Midnight Rider on TV tapings, but now the storyline is catching up to the syndication. And that night in the main event at the Boston Garden, man, what a historic building. Dusty Rhodes, Sting, the NWA Tag Team Champions, Luger and Barry Windham, defeated Ric Flair, Ivan Koloff, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard in a steel cage match. The following day, Chicago, 3,500 people at the UIC Pavilion. They watched Ewan Tully in a losing effort to Lex and Barry. You guys continue to go at it with Lex and Barry as even after Clash of the Champions. And then on April 17th, don't be shocked, Jim Crockett tapes multiple shows. The episode of World Championship Wrestling that aired on the 23rd that included the match with Ewan Tully taking on Barry and Luger. We're going to put a pin in that for a moment and discuss that match here in a few minutes. But in the dark match, following the NWA Pro taping, the same day, Sting, Windham, and Lex Luger, they defeated you in an elimination match. Big-time matches going on here. And following that television taping, you and Rick wrestled at the Charlotte Coliseum, taking on Windham and Luger in the main event. Next day, the beat goes on. It's a six-man tag team, West Palm Beach, where the Midnight Rider, Sting and Luger, defeat the Horsemen in about 14 minutes. And then on the 19th, 4,500 in attendance at the Knight Center in Miami. You lost to Luger by way of a count-out. And now, Arn, we are here for the conclusion of the angle that's been building for nearly 90 days. In Jacksonville, Florida, on April 20th, Jim Crockett recorded an episode of World Championship Wrestling that aired on the 23rd. And then this taping, arguably the greatest incarnation of the Horsemen, is formed when Barry Windham turns on Lex Luger, helping the Horsemen defeat the Twin Towers, that's what they were called, and therefore become the two-time NWA Tag Team Champions. Arn, throughout the entire match, JJ harassed and belittled Barry about Luger's inability to help him. Ewan Tully and JJ had jumped on Luger early and kept him on the floor, effectively making this a handicap match. For 15 minutes, Ewan Tully take turns beating on Windham. And just my own opinion, if anyone out there doubts just how good Barry is, stop this podcast, go watch the match, come back to us. Arn, we have the closing moments of this match and the fallout. Let's take a look at it.
Getting it off Blanchard. This is a one-man battle right now. Luger is still staggering. He is still on his knees.
JJ stirring the pot.
Yes, he is.
James J continues to talk to Barry Windham. Oh, yeah, Barry Windham. Oh, no, that might be the home run he needed. There may not be a man there for him to tag, but by golly, there's a man trying to get up. And
Teddy Long is your official. There's a little bit of trivia.
Luger. Windham made the tag, and Wyndham's upset. Barry, no! Oh,
Shock.
Look at JCP patting Windham on the back. This is totally disgusting. Luger,
Great job by the announcers.
street and desire is going to get back in the ring and help us.
Jim Ross, man.
Brother, they are killing it right now telling the story.
Tony.
But that's not the story right now. We are a witness to some stunning developments. It's the Midnight Rider who's made his appearance here. Luger is out cold. The Midnight Rider, let's see the referee out to the concrete. Luger he is in terrible physical shape. But my God, he tried with every ounce of heart and soul he had to get back in the ring and help his partner. What in the world is his foul? What in heaven's name can Barry Windham be thinking about? What possessed him to do that? Not Barry Windham. I can believe it to some people, but not Barry Windham. And Barry Windham, you and I know, Tony. No, you're exactly right. A lot of questions need to be answered. That is a stunned look on the face of Nikita Koloff. You see the Midnight Rider in here. Only thing I can say, man, it is total shock, not only here in Jacksonville, but I'm sure nationwide, as we have witnessed the last thing in the world we expected. What in the world happened to Barry Windham? Luger was trying to get back in the ring. He did everything he could, and the Midnight Rider, I don't know where he's going, but he looks like he means business. Nikita Koloff, Dr. Death, and Sting are helping Luger out of the ring. Well, it appears that, and I understand we are going to try to follow the Midnight Rider. What happened to him? Jim, as we do, I think, I'm sure we have sound back there. Why don't we just let the video speak for itself here?
You don't need to talk to me with a laugh. Don't turn your back on me. Don't turn your back on me. Get the horse.
Oh,
Chaos. Chaos.
that was that was some fun stuff, man. Now listen, I got to say this. If you're a member on adfreeshows.com, you're going to get as your bonus show this month, should I say, with Arn Anderson, John Alba and Arn sit down and they watch that entire match, right? In its entirety of that tag team match in that turn. So they're going to do a watch along for that. So check that out. It's going to come out after this show drops. But Arn, thoughts on that? You guys put the match on, you completed the angle. Why is it now? It's the time for Barry to turn and complete the Horsemen. Why do you think this all worked, man?
Well, you heard one of the announcers, and I think it was JR, say, no, not Barry. And I think that said it all. Nobody believed Barry Windham would go with us. He was a standalone kind of a guy. He was like a lone wolf type guy. Career babyface. Just people loved him. They did. The girls loved him. The kids loved him. And the guys loved him. They wanted to be him. which is one of the keys when you're a top babyface. And the story we told, I thought, worked, to the naked eye. If you're Barry Windham, he keeps looking at his corner, he needs to make a tag, and there's nobody there, and he's wondering where Luger is. And that can build and build and build, and pretty soon you just get pissed off. Feel like you're in the match by yourself. He didn't realize that we were using the numbers and using JJ, Tully, and myself to keep Luger out of the fight. And if you're Barry Windham, in his mind, he had enough, and with JJ constantly stirring the pot,
I thought it was so cool how it's the entire heel locker room trying to rip that mask off Dusty. Just not the Horsemen. The Midnight Express are in there. All of them. Everybody that's a heel wants to expose Dusty Rhodes in that moment, and that just shows you the importance of that whole storyline and having all of them want to tear that mask off of him. It was just powerful. It was cool.
Yeah, storytelling.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know that you're a Dusty Rhodes guy. You and I have talked about that through and through, and rightfully so. He did a lot for you, did a lot for the creative. But I will say the Midnight Rider angle has been characterized over the years as the beginning of the end for Dusty creatively, meaning some people say that he was running out of ideas. What are your thoughts on the Midnight Rider and all of that?
Well, maybe. You got to remember, in those days, you very seldom had a crew of people that worked for an individual territory, whether it be Dallas or it was Memphis or it was out on the coast in Portland, Oregon. You didn't have a crew of guys that actually stayed together with a particular company for years. It would be 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. You would start having to, because remember, you were in the same town a lot of times before we started expanding every week. You go back to Greenville every week, go back to Fayetteville every week or every other week. So the point is, we had a crew together that had been together for a couple of years now, and we were starting, you're starting to run out of ideas, some people would say, but my God, who can have enough new, fresh ideas to be running the amount of towns we were, doing the amount of TV we were doing? I think people got to kind of pull up a little bit and go, well, Jesus, I mean, everybody runs out of ideas.
Yeah.
It really does. And I think if we made a mistake, we were still taking our crews out to towns that were dead, areas of the country that were dead. If we would have made a more conscious move as to what towns we ran and stick with the ones on the East Coast, there were a lot of cities in the South that weren't getting shows. That was the mistake we made. It wasn't a lack of creativity, and it damn sure wasn't a lack of guys working their ass off, because you had a crew of guys that could outperform any other crew assembled probably in history.
Well, Arn, no, good stuff. Makes a lot of sense. It's April 22nd. We move on. It's the day before this angle that we just watched is shown on TV, and it's the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup for 1988. It's at the Memorial Auditorium in Greenville, South Carolina. Tony Schiavone makes the announcement that Barry will not be in the tournament. Instead, we learn that Sting will team with Lex Luger. You and Tully were seeded number 1, and why not? You are the best tag team in wrestling, so it only makes sense. And Arn, as I was doing a little digging for this show and this episode, I remembered that I had something in my own private collection that I wanted to show you this week as we get into the Jim Crockett, and that is the original program from the Jim Crockett Memorial Senior Cup. And as I go through this program, for those that are on ad-free shows, you can see the video of it. You open up the magazine, and it talks about team by team, and we get to Arn and Tully. And Arn, I'm going to read a little excerpt here that is written about you and Tully from the original program. It says, although these members of the Four Horsemen are no longer world champions, having lost their belts to Barry Windham and Lex Luger, they remain the number 1 seed. At the time of the seedings, they were reigning champions, but more importantly than that, Anderson and Blanchard have the best win-loss record in the NWA since last September. They have truly been a dominant force in tag team wrestling. Just when you think you have the Horsemen down, states James J. Dillon, The Horsemen are at their best. Sure, Tully and Arn suffered a minor setback when the Twin Towers had the match of their lives. But tradition runs high in the Horsemen, just as it does in the Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup. Winning that beautiful trophy and having $1 million would sure set the ball rolling again. I think our mental attitude is so keen right now, we should storm through the tournament. And Tully Blanchard, along with Arn Anderson, may just storm through the competition, for being a Horseman is to be the best. To win the Crockett Cup states that you are the best. Here it is, the number 1 seed in this tournament, as you can see right there. It's Arn and Tully, and it says number 1 right there below your picture. So there you go, man. It's the original program. I picked this up several years ago, and it has the entire match listing. So what do you think, man?
Who wrote that article?
That was probably just written by, they have a dedication to Jim Crockett Sr. at the beginning of it, as you can see there, and they have write-ups for every single tag team that's in the tournament. So it's a lot of fun, and it goes all the way to Ric Flair and Nikita Koloff in the main event. You got the Midnight Rider and Magnum TA in his corner with James J. Dillon as well. There pictured. So one of these days when you and I are together, sir, I'm going to have to bring this and maybe have you sign it for me. But a lot of fun there. And I thought, we're covering this today. I want to break it out and share it with you right here on the show today.
Thank you for sharing that. And whoever wrote the article is brilliant.
Sure are. So listen, you guys are the number 1 seed. You earned a first round bye. Opening the second round, you and Tully defeat Italian Stallion and Kendall Windham. When you hit the DDT on Stallion as he tried a backdrop, the next day, the Crockett Cup continues, and this time it's in Greensboro Coliseum, which this says right here at the bottom of the program. 22nd was Greenville. 23rd is Greensboro, North Carolina. You're in front of 6,200 paying fans. The show opened with the announcement concerning Ron Garvin's injury, and Barry Windham had joined the 4 Horsemen. JJ took on the Midnight Rider in a Texas death match, which I just spoke about, is in the program. And as you've indicated before, Arn, this was the Midnight Rider specialty, and JJ bled like a stuck hog for his part. I tell you what, man, JJ, for everything he did in front of the mic, he wasn't afraid. As you said last time, he was a bump master, and he wasn't afraid to bleed either, and he did it once again here at the Crockett Cup.
John, JJ's a pro.
Yeah.
Major pro.
He certainly was. And so he took his beating again here. In the semifinals of the event, you and Tully defeated the Fantastics when you pinned Tommy Rogers after hitting him with JJ's shoe. Yes, we got those loafers again this week. While Luger and Sting defeated the Powers of Pain. So Arn, in the finals of the event, Sting and Luger with Magnum by their side defeat the NWA Tag Team Champions, the Horsemen. We have the closing moments of this one. Let's look at how it all went down right here in Greensboro.
Makes the tag. It's kind of like you can use a statistic like a tag ratio, or how many times you tagged your partner in a match to time of possession in a football game. Right. You stay on the attack. You keep a freshman in the ring for the short intervals and tag in and out a great deal, and that's what Anderson and Blanchard have done here. And what a game plan. Go for $1 million and go for the pin.
Another good statistic would be how many times you can make the tag when you're at a disadvantage, like the Scorpion Deathlock, or like a Sunset Flip, or at moments where it's a penny predicament and you get out of it. They're the best at it, but finally the tag is made. Here comes Lex Luger.
Sting fought his way to the corner, and Lex Luger's in there. The total package. He is glistening. This man is such a tremendous athlete. Big right hands, cracking their heads together. The Horsemen are in trouble, and $1 million on the line, but don't count Anderson out yet.
Anderson with the spine buster covers Luger. This could be it. It's a 2 count. It was Lex Luger almost getting out. Sting made the save, and now all 4 men are in.
This one here is breaking down to a Pier 6 brawl. Blanchard and Anderson outside. Magnum TA grabbed the foot of Arn Anderson.
2 count only. 2 count. And now they got Magnum by the hair. Luger rolls him over. There it is, Jim Ross.
Lex Luger pinned Arn Anderson. Luger and Sting. The crowd is jubilant, but Luger and Sting have won the 3rd annual Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament. They have won $1 million.
And what a great scene that is, hugging Magnum TA. Lex Luger, high fives to the fans all around, and $1 million richer. I know this has to take some of the sting, so to speak, as you see the man named Sting, but some of the bad taste out of what happened in Jacksonville with Barry Windham for Lex Luger.
What a night for Sting and Lex Luger. As we go back and take a look at the Sting and Blanchard hammering each other. They went on the outside, but
The $1 million pin, Arn, there it was.
Well, once you figure out you're not going to get the $1 million, you have lost the match, then you see it for what it really is. The fact that Magnum was out there and able to play a part in that win. Everybody in the wrestling industry suffered when that car wreck went down. And I mean, those of us that really knew Magnum, knew the dues he had paid and knew what he had in his future and any number of barometers that you can think about or bring to light. The fact that this guy had manned up, had nutted up, had made his way down to the ring, and basically just had his presence take that arena to another level and be able to get involved in the match in a way that was safe for him, but effective. You gotta love it, because that guy could have died that night in that car wreck, and every day I thought about Magnum, and still to this day I still think about him. It took a hell of a man to come down that aisle and be ringside and get involved with that match. And internally, you got to know he's thinking, God, I wish I could just be whole for another day. Nothing but respect for the guy. And to this day, my hand won't be functioning real well. My low back will be out, or my neck will be bothering me, and I'm sitting around feeling sorry for myself, and I think, well, you stupid son of a bitch. Magnum fights every single day just to have a normal life. He don't complain. Shut your mouth. And that's the way I live my life, and that's the kind of impact a guy like that has on you.
Absolutely. And you've shared it before on here, Arn, how important storytelling is. And you think about what we just saw and what we watched last week. We saw the Midnight Rider take on JJ, because you remember the angle where Tully attacked him. And so now we see Midnight Rider take on JJ. So there's some comeuppance there. We know Dusty's suspended for 120 days. And then it pays off nicely here for that whole angle with Magnum, because now he's getting the assist to give Luger the win against you guys, getting Tully Blanchard back, if you will. So it ties it all together so nicely in terms of storytelling.
100%, my friend. Emotion, that's what was selling tickets in those days. Just pure emotion and drama. And characters that connected with the audience.
Well, they're the winners, the $1 million winners. Again, the push for Luger and Sting as the new face, the new up-and-coming stars, just like we talked about at the end of the Clash. They're two headliners again here for the Jim Crockett Memorial Cup. And we're in the home stretch of April, closing it out. On the 24th, you guys are in the Omni, one of your favorite places. The crowd is only 1,400, so we'll talk about it. This card featured you and the Midnight Rider in a match that happened here. You went when Dusty Rhodes hit you with a chair and then punched the referee. We know it's not Dusty because he would do that. They wouldn't do that sort of thing. But in the semi-main event, Tully and Rick defeat Sting and Luger in a match that almost went 20 minutes when Barry hit Sting with a lariat. And Arn, we want to note that Ric Flair did not appear at any of the scheduled shows or TV tapings for the next 4 days, and refunds were offered as a result. So that's interesting. Following that amazing angle in the match he had with Nikita at the Crockett Cup, obviously something had to be the reason, and we're unable to uncover it in our research. Not sure if you can recall anything. I know that's going way back. But
No, but it's definitely something was going on, unless he was he out of the country?
No idea. Like I said, we couldn't find anything on it, but it's just uncharacteristic, especially when you think about they give fans refunds, something that never happened back in those days in terms of Flair not making an appearance and refunds being offered. But little nugget for all those keeping track at home for end of April 1988. April 27th, JCP records television from the TBS studios once again in Atlanta. Flair was not in attendance as scheduled, but all the other Horsemen were. And Barry joins you and Tully, as well as the inspirational leader of the Four Horsemen, James J. Dillon, at the desk for an interview with Tony. Arn, this is the final segment that we're going to review this week. And this is what you all had to say. Let's check it out.
So there was what happened in the dressing room right after the big scene.
Let me tell you what, Dusty Rhodes, who are you? You know, everybody thinks that what I've done is so bad. All I have done is join the most elite group of professional wrestlers. Dusty Rhodes, who puts you above the law? What makes you better than everybody else to where you can do something and get away with it? Huh? Answer that question for me, will you? You out there. What I have done is become a member of the Four Horsemen, not by invitation, but by my ability and talent alone. I am up here, and they are right there with me. I am a member of the best team of professional wrestlers today, and I will stay there. I am the cream of the crop, and there is nobody in professional wrestling that is going to top me or can beat me. Luger is nowhere near my talent, and neither is Dusty Rhodes. So Midnight Rider, you call yourself. Bring it on down, because I can take care of myself, and if I can't, I have my friend. You know, BW, it's great to have you with us. You know, everybody in our group, in our elite group, knows Dusty Rhodes like the back of the hand. Yeah. You can go back a couple years to the Omni with the leg. You can go back to the titles that I've taken from him. And you know, BW, now the last thing that he had in his mystique was this, and you've taken that. But you know, we've got these back. Flair's the world heavyweight champion. We always said, you've got to have the gold to really be somebody in professional wrestling. Well, on May the 13th, BW, now that you're the newest member, I think it's only fitting that you should be the United States heavyweight champion, too. And I know you can take everybody in that tournament. The U.S. championship is something that JJ and I have already talked about, and believe you me, not far from now, it'll be right here. Double A, please put it all in proper perspective for us.
I'm going to say one thing about this. I don't want to toot our horn out here, but toot. All things considered, these are back where they should have been all along. Now moving along, Dusty Rhodes, Midnight Rider, whoever it is you want to call yourself. If you are what you've always professed to be, the American dream, then don't come out here and plead. Don't come out here and beg Barry Windham to fall back under your wings, fall back under your shadow. The whole theory behind the American dream is a little man can rise from nowhere to the top of the world. That's what the American dream is. You can achieve what your potential and what your guts will let you achieve. Don't begrudge Barry Windham that same right. Don't be a hypocrite. Rhodes, all these people will stand behind anything you say. But we know you to be exactly what you know yourself to be, a hypocrite. Windham has done one thing for himself once in his life. It's not, come on, Barry, get in a limousine, go where I want to go.
It's done. Come on, Barry. Come with me, Lex. Let's go do what Luger wants to do. For one time in his life, he grows up and be the man he wants to be. He's 6'6". He's 265 pounds. And what he is above anything else, something nobody will ever be able to take away from him, as now he's a horseman. And gentlemen, in our criteria, that's the bottom line. What this is called is stacking them up for you, Rose. Your final horror is. The bottom line is a quote out of history that's something nobody's ever forgot. Keep in mind, he gave his only begotten son. We are the best. We are the Horsemen. And when he gets to Houston for the tournament, Barry Windham will be ready.
More action, fans, right after this timeout.
Okay, so I want to say a few things here. First of all, Arn, the white sunglasses, the cream-colored shirt, the blonde hair, it really accentuates that mahogany tan that you're sporting there, brother. Second only to Hulk Hogan, man. Look at you.
What you're saying, just go ahead and say it, is I was looking way too good.
You were looking good, man. You were ready. 1998 April. It was a good time of life for you, my friend.
Let's don't even get started on that Kruger and big rope chain and that nugget watch I was sporting either. We don't even have to go there.
That's why I started that show with the white sunglasses. You were rocking them in that promo.
Me and Elvis.
There you go.
That's the only two that I think can pull that off.
You got it. There's others that have tried, but they can't touch you, Arn. Seriously, though, here, Barry was really good, man. He was believable. He was really, dare I say, toot here, and amazing chemistry immediately. We know Barry had it. He had it in the ring especially, but this was a very well-done interview. Was there any doubt at all that Barry would fit like a glove with the Horsemen?
Don't, and I think, when I just pointed out that the guy finally did something for himself, that resonated with a lot of people. That wasn't a heel thing or a babyface thing. That was just, yeah, you're right. He is good. He is so good, he deserves something. And, once we said that, it was like, okay, that fits. That works.
Yeah, absolutely. So closing out April, there's a double shot because it is Jim Crockett Promotions after all. It's Norfolk. You and Flair defeated Sting and Luger after Windham interfered. Later that night in Miami, from Norfolk to Miami, you lost to Lex Luger by count out. And one last event, we're in Laurinburg, North Carolina. It's sold out. They're hanging from the rafters. That's right, 620 people at Pate Stadium watched the main event that featured the Midnight Rider and Luger defeat you and Tully and JJ in a handicap match. All joking aside about the small town of Laurinburg, it's close to home, and this show was the last time, here it is, the last time Dusty wrestled as the Midnight Rider. What a month, Arn. Somehow the Horsemen became an even more dangerous and imposing faction. Sting and Luger once again have emerged as the heroes following the Crockett Cup. JJ was bludgeoned by the Midnight Rider. This has been a lot of fun, but an awesome trip again down memory lane. And I hope you had a good time going through this with me this week.
I really do, Paul. It's always nice to sit. It's okay to be a wrestling fan again. We went through a long period there where it was sports entertainment or nothing. Well, it's okay to be a wrestling fan because this is what professional wrestling is. This is the storytelling that people, when they come up and say you were a big part of my childhood, this is what they meant. And it was, the audience knew the characters. They liked who they liked. They disliked who they didn't like. And it was just a great form of entertainment for people and, that like wrestling. And other than us taking a step down, and it has been argued that this might be a step up for the Horsemen and a brand new recharge.
That's right. It was believable. It was real. You had passion, and it sucked us all into just some amazing storylines. And I love recounting this history with you, Arn. And we're not stopping because next week the Horsemen continue the gallop. And we're in May 1988. Barry captures the U.S. title. Rick continues working against Sting and Luger, and you and Tully continue to show the world why the both of you, alongside with the other horsemen, in the words of David Crockett, rule professional wrestling, my friend. It has been a privilege to do this with you again. And, buddy, we're going to be back again next week, as I said.
Great job, Paul.
Good stuff. Well, listen, on behalf of the enforcer, Arn Anderson, I'm Paul Bromwell, and you've been listening to Arn